This past weekend, my wife and I attended an evangelism conference hosted by Simplicity Ministries, led by Mike Thibodeau. And it was 5.5 hours of some really good stuff. Something that really stood out to me that I wanted to touch on here today with you is we were talking about sharing our salvation story and how we first heard about Christ, how we first found out about the gospel and all that. And so people were mentioning names. Sometimes it was somebody who they didn't know their name, but like in my case, it was a Sunday school bus driver that happened to just stop by our house. We were a house that, I was in 3rd grade, my sister was in 1st grade. We were not a church-going household, but he stopped by, and that was my first introduction to God, and ultimately led to me accepting Christ as my personal Savior. And different people had different people. Maybe they're family members, maybe a friend, a wide variety. And it was based on the verse of Romans 10:14, which essentially says, how will they call upon him who they have not believed? And how will they believe on him who they have not heard? And how will they hear without a preacher? And it really made me think. It really hit home because I don't know the name of the person who first told me about Jesus Christ. But I remember the time, even though I don't remember all the details. I remember how that happened. But it really also caused me to look in the mirror myself and think, who would mention my name? Who would be the ones that would mention my name or my circumstances if somebody were to ask them that same question? I've been in work situations where even if I'm not the one that brings it up, I've been very privileged to be able to talk with somebody about Jesus and to be able to pray with them to make a decision to start following him with their life and some other situations and stuff. But one of the questions asked was, who will mention your name? And it's not about me. It's about God. But God chooses to do his work through his people. And so I've been privileged to be in that position where he will use me to talk to someone. He will use me to pray with them, to help them to understand the gospel and to be able to ultimately make a decision for Christ. And so that's my question for you, just something that I dealt with this past week that just really hit home for me is, who will mention your name? If somebody were to ask them, who first told you about Jesus? Will anybody mention your name? And that was a really sobering thought. So it's something that I want to be even more conscious of as I go about my daily business, whether it's at work, whether I'm just out in the community, whether it's with friends, whatever my situation is, am I ready to share the gospel with them? Am I ready to talk about Jesus? Am I open to doing that? And will anybody mention my name if they were asked that question? Who first told you about Jesus? So anyhow, that's just my prayer, is that I would be put in that position more often. But I wanted to share that with you and hope that might inspire you as well. So have a great day. Talk to you later. Bible on the road.